Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome into the Computer America Show, everyone. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. Everyone, hey, welcome into the program. Today on the show, we have headlines. We have a lot of different stuff to talk about. This should be a relatively short one, but, we have some good stories, including, turns out a volcanic eruption can totally knock out your internet. It's not just light breezes and slight rain. Nope. Volcanoes can do it too. We have that. We have new legislation working its way through the United States that might ban surveillance advertising, quote unquote surveillance advertising. Don't think it'll do much, but hey, it might do something. We have all that and more, including this article about Starlink and how, satellites are kind of, sort of, maybe ruining astronomers' photos. And why, I don't know, just feels very disingenuous, this whole article. So we have all that and more here at Computer America. You can find out more, computeramerica.com. That's where you will find everything, including past shows, future shows, podcasts, articles, reviews, show notes, and social media links. Give us a like, give us a follow. It's really, hey, that's all you need to know. If you want to join us live, you can, of course, check out the video whenever we record these, twitch.tv/Computer America. Now, all that branding. Welcome into the program. Let's go ahead and get started with computer and technology news brought to you by Computer America. I think we'll start with this first one. And I'm sure that by now, if you've been on social media, you have seen some of the footage of the volcanic eruption. It was pretty massive. And honestly, I had no idea when it had happened, but obviously it's, makes sense that this eruption happened, it happened a couple of days ago. And, what happens later is that a lot of infrastructure gets messed up. Now, this was a small island in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. Not a lot around it, and you would think, nothing hurt, everything's good. Well, turns out the undersea cables did not take a liking to what had happened. The southern Pacific nation of Tonga is struggling following an eruption of a volcano that includes challenges getting online. According to Reuters and The Verge, Tonga government was warned internet access is down following damage to the lone undersea fiber optic cable keeping the archipelago online. And while the country didn't provide an initial estimate, the Southern Cross Cable Network's Craig Slutz told Reuters that it may take as long as 2 weeks to repair the cable. And I think that, really, that's something that people don't understand. That's something that people don't really understand about the internet sometimes, is that to get the data from America to Europe, to, from China to Australia, from Australia to Tonga, from Africa to Europe, there's, just like in your house when you are very poor at cable management, there's just giant cables laying along the ocean floor. And that's why ships in particular have to take very, very special care not to drop anchor where they're not supposed to. Because if they drop anchor, they can actually cut this entire line. That's when you get headlines such as ship messed up and now the entire continent of Africa has no internet access. Happens more often than you think. These anchors, they slide across the floor, they cut the cable. Next thing you know, internet's down for everyone. Now, with that being said, you have these instances where, how do I put this? These cables are not foolproof. They're, beefed up versions of your Ethernet cable that you have, or, hey, they're fiber. And in this case, you have the one from Papua New Guinea to Tonga, and the timing for the repair will also hinge on safety clearance and any lingering activity from the volcano. The 514-mile cable is secured through a Fiji relay. So they, of course, have the mission of going out there, finding exactly where this cable is broken, pick up both the lines off the seafloor, and then put them back together to then reactivate the internet. No easy feat, and I'm sure it involves a lot of deep sea diving experience. It involves, of course, cable management. You can't just call AT&T and be like, hey, my entire country's offline. No, you actually have to, do something. Now, the outage underscores the vulnerability of internet access for island nations, and actually, this is where I think we can actually transition this from a conversation about undersea cabling, which is still the preferred method and likely will always be the preferred method, but there's another option, and that other option is satellite internet. Now, one of the most currently, one of the most ubiquitous satellite internet providers is Starlink, which, hey, can lead us to our second story. So, of course, you can find a link to that in the show notes when we have those posted on the website. But the second story here is about Starlink satellites are photo bombing astronomy images. Now, I just want to mention that a lot of people get very heated when talking about Elon Musk and his plans. And I want to put this into context because much like the conversation before about California going to tax the rate at which people can put solar energy on their roofs, thereby hindering people, from putting solar energy on the roofs, that whole thing, that conversation got blown out of proportion very, very quickly. I feel like this is going to be the exact same one. And to put some things into perspective, they have an image here of a nebula and giant white streaks going all the way across it. This is a number of Starlink satellites streaking across an image that an observatory was trying to take of this nebula. And yeah, here's the thing. Not to get too far into it, but let's put it this way. There's about 1,400 satellites currently active in low Earth orbit. They are looking to put another 10,000 here by the end of the year or something like that. And I think they are planning in total in the next couple of years to have 43,000 communication satellites all over the globe. You can see how at 1,500 you're already running into problems. 43,000, you're definitely going to run into these same problems. Now, why articles like this are being extremely, they go viral and they're being very scare tactic like. Let's see, this article provides a lot of numbers. And by the way, this is just one observatory in, real quick. Okay. This is one observatory out of all the observatories on Earth reporting this problem. I'm not saying others aren't seeing it. I'm saying this is one observatory altogether. From these, you have nearly 20 streaked images per night in the second half of 2021. Multiple satellites, up to 15, may be visible in one image. And on average, there's one satellite streak per affected image. These are only happening for images taken during dusk, which is the best time to photograph things like comets and asteroids. So there is some legitimate concern there. But by and large, taking a photo of space is nothing like taking a photo of, from your phone. One single image capture is not exactly how it's done. They take... they leave the shutter open and they take constant images and, they layer them over on top of each other. They already have software to, edit out these streaks that you see in these images. This is just one image. And by the way, however, the satellite streaking is generally very small, blocking out only 0.04% of the captured image. Because satellites, remember, their apertures are massive. The amount of light and the amount of view that they actually take are gigantic. These streaks are 0.04% of the actual image. Is that a problem? yes, I'm not saying that 0.04 isn't, highly relevant data, but these are satellites that are still moving into position. When they are moved into position, they're not nearly as noticeable because they have deflectors and they can actually reduce the amount of glare going from the satellite back to Earth. And, by and large, they're not really an issue. It's just this issue with this one observatory so far, and it's with a certain time of day, like, a particular hour of the day. Is this something that Starlink needs to make a priority? Absolutely. Is this something that is ruining astronomy, the field, for everyone forever? Not at all. It's very, very small comparatively to the entire field. They said, as a result, the study concludes that satellite streaking poses more of a problem for astronomical research for comets and asteroids, as we mentioned. Still, the streaks may eventually become unavoidable. The concern for astronomical community prompted SpaceX to come up with new designs for the Starlink satellites to minimize the brightness in the night sky. And they even have a special visor which can block out the sun's reflections back to Earth. There you go. It's, it feels like fear-mongering. It really does when it comes to these Starlink satellites. The ability to service everyone on Earth, anyone can have internet access at any moment, would truly be an impressive feat for any country, any company, and it would provide so much benefit. And the fact that 0.04 of a couple of images that the software can already take the streaking out of, man, this is a big nothing article. This is one image taken at dusk, all that good stuff. So this conversation needs to be put into perspective. And, to Michael Kahn's credit over at PC World, he did a very good job at laying out the numbers. He did include them in the article, but they're saying, according to a new study, 1,000 satellites coming years, blah, 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 still fear-mongering, even though probably shouldn't be. So there's that article. Starlink satellites, if you hear about reflection and ruining astronomical photos and research, all that kind of thing, no big deal. Don't worry about it. I mean, it's a big deal, but you don't have to be the one to worry about it. Okay, so let's see. There's that one. Real quick, got this article from Grant in the chat. Lithuania will prohibit vape flavors next year. The public is able to comment on the draft law until October 11th, so they can make their voices heard. The law passed the Lithuanian parliament in June by a vote of 59-5, with 12 abstaining. So that's pretty overwhelming, that it was passed. It would amend the country's law on the control of tobacco products, and related products. EU member state Lithuania is planning to ban all vaping flavors. They have lodged. To be fair, vaping flavors generally try to make their products attractive to kids. Don't they have fruity flavors and flavors that are generally more appealing to a younger audience? 6 other European countries have flavor bans. In Estonia, Finland, Hungary, Ukraine, restrictions on non-tobacco flavors are already in place. Denmark's flavor ban will take effect April 1st, 2022. In Netherlands, it will be July 1st, 2022. Honestly, and they say about 28% of Lithuanian residents smoke, well above the EU average. Lithuania is among the smallest EU member countries with a population of under 3 million. Still, there's a problem when it comes to underage smoking, and I think that vaping companies definitely do that. I think that outright banning, we saw that with prohibition here in the United States, leads to a huge, I'm going to say underground market for these flavors that are even more unregulated. I'm sure that the flavors that you can order from China and online that then get shipped into the country and then you consume them are not going to have the same regulatory standards, and, make sure that people don't die like they did here in the United States. Make sure that the chemicals used inside these vaping flavors are all on the up and up. Third party unregulated vaping cartridges, very, very dangerous and have killed people. I think when you can making them flavored is a dumb idea because you do advertise it to a younger audience, but having it unavailable is a bad idea because clearly people in Lithuania, they want to smoke, they want to use their vapes, and they should have that right. If vaping is legal, then hey, they should have access to good, clean products. So there you go. But yeah, looks like public comment until October 11th. So EU taking a harder stance on vaping. Who knew? Okay, so yeah, that was an aside. Let's go ahead and talk about a couple of these. Speaking of kids doing things they shouldn't be doing. Okay, 9-year-old kids are launching DDoS attacks against schools. We've reached the pinnacle. And don't get me wrong, kids have always done stupid things. Kids have called in bomb threats to schools to stop from taking a test. They've faked being ill. They have assaulted each other. Kids and dumb decisions hand in hand. They do it all the time. But I think the bigger problem here is the ease of access that it comes to DDoSing. And it really is simple. So here we go. Here's an article from Bitdefender saying that Britain's computer crime cops are targeting youngsters as young as 9 years old in an attempt to dissuade them from embarking on a life of cybercrime. The UK's National Crime Agency has launched a new initiative with the hope of educating youngsters of the consequences of launching DDoS attacks, which, by the way, should totally be seen as a crime, because it is. It's very, very disruptive and can cause a lot of issues. So a study by the NCA discovered the number of distributed denial of service attacks, which, for those who don't know, is when you get a botnet. You have, let's say, 10,000 slave computers. You have 10,000 computers that you can request to do something on command. And let's say that request for, let's say, Ben's website. Every one of those, which may see, let's just say 100 visitors a day or 1,000 visitors a day, whatever. You take your 10,000 computers, point them to the website, and you say, hey, give me the connection logs for every computer that's ever connected to your network for all time, and send me the current, settings. Here are some settings. I want you to change these settings. Just flood it with tons of useless data requests to bring it to its knees and just cripple it. Anyone who's legitimately trying to use this service would not be able to. And effectively, Ben's website is completely offline. It happens all the time. Yeah, that's a DDoS attack. Just a quick refresher for those who don't know. Now, kids are running these against school networks. You can imagine where one kid points his many bots to the school website, and suddenly, hey, no one has to do their homework. No one has to turn in their homework. No one can turn in their homework. Teachers can't connect to students. Overall, school is disrupted. And no one's the wiser because your IP address is just another number in, thousands and thousands of these phony requests. So they mentioned that one theory is that youngsters can fall into denial of service attacks by firstly playing online games and then falling into installing mods, hacks, and even remote access Trojans to get the upper hand on their gaming rivals. Research has suggested that many young students do not consider it wrong to disrupt other players' gaming experience because it is considered another way to win. Shame on them. If you can't beat them, if you can't kick their ass, hey, you suck. Stop it. So how can the police convince youngsters that they shouldn't launch attacks against others, whether it be fellow gamers or school websites? And they mention here they have a campaign, to kind of get to kids and say, don't do that. But it's not just a warning for those who search for stressor or booter services, which provide an easy way to launch a DDoS attack against the school's network. The campaign also aims to influence young people who might be considering engaging in cybercrime to feel motivated to exploit their technical prowess in an ethical career in technology, gaming, or cybersecurity industries. And funny story, a lot of these cybersecurity professionals that I've talked to, especially of an older generation, they got their start hacking the phone system. They got their start hacking, Bell South, AT&T. They got their start in, messing with cable television, getting free cable TV shows. A lot of people's interest in security was first breaking through that security. So I think they're absolutely right. And if people are interested in this kind of field, especially at a young age, then good on them for not just saying, don't do that and never think about this again. Instead, they're saying, hey, maybe this is something that you should keep pursuing, but in a positive capacity. And that's really cool. They said hopefully initiatives like this will help some youngsters avoid taking the first steps into a life of cybercrime and find a legitimate legal career in technology instead. I like this one a lot. This is a very good, this is a very good message. I like that a lot. So 9-year-olds distributing denial of service attack. Who knew? We have about 3 more stories here. Speaking of a life of cybercrime, one of the terms used in the field is white hat, black hat, and gray hat. White hat, much like a white knight, is someone who is using their hacking ability to promote positive change. They will hack into a system. They will provide excellent documentation. They will say exactly how they broke into the system. They will approach the company and say, here's your security flaw. Here's how to fix it. Here's how you can replicate it. You should fix this. And hopefully there's a bug bounty or something like that in place, and people, generally get paid doing this, or they get paid for consulting fees to, on purpose. They pay them to break into their network so that they know the vulnerabilities, so on and so forth. Anyways, you have that. You have gray hat, which kind of straddles that line, doesn't ask for permission, breaks into it, tries to sell it, but, otherwise just discloses it. And then you have black hat. And black hat is, of course, they're just the criminals. This gentleman, though, in this story, a hacker is negotiating with victims on the blockchain after a $1.4 million heist. Check this out. This hacker who called themselves a white hat hacker, quote unquote white hat hacker. Not so much. One second. There we go. Okay. He called himself a white hat hacker, but check this out. He says, quote, white hat here, send me the transaction you lost, your wrapped ether, or weather. I give back 80%. The rest is the tips for me saving your money. So essentially this supposedly super ethical guy is like, hey, I'll send back 80% of your money, but I'm going to keep 20% of it because I'm such a nice guy for stealing your money. I guess what he's thinking is, hey, better me than someone else who would keep 100% of it. They said that, hi, we offer bounty for exploits. They mentioned a developer who works for the multi-chain wrote in a message posted on the blockchain yesterday before the second hacker posted their message, thanks. The hack began on Monday when Multichain, a platform that allows users to swap tokens between blockchains that was previously known as AnySwap. Swapping tokens using Multichain requires users to set approvals for the platform's contract in their cryptocurrency wallet, and these approvals are what the hackers exploited. Not just one hacker, but at least 2, according to security experts for the hack. So it sounds like they give permission to pull from the wallet at the same time that they send money to the wallet. These permissions are pretty important, so you don't just say, oh yeah, totally, I'll send you 100 Ethereum and you send me 1 Bitcoin. And it becomes this whole Texan standoff where, kind of both sides are standing there waiting to shoot the other one. Nope, they give permission, everything's handled automated, and it looks like hackers are able to exploit that automation by requesting the money. And just not good. It said, but the hacker stole about 445 wrapped Ether. Ether, the equivalent of around $1.4 million. User funds, however, are still potentially to be lost if users don't revoke approvals. Multichain shared the same message in a public Medium post. There you go. Saying that what's left is approvals that are slowly being exploited. It is fortunate if indeed this flashbot attacker is a white hat, he said in a phone call. And I don't think he's a white hat. No white hat is going to, if anything, gray hat at best. If not just, I'm stealing money and keeping 20% of it. You're lucky. If not just a dumb, kind of black hat hacker. So, in that being said, in the official multi-chain Telegram channel, several users are asking to be compensated and warning that there are people sending direct messages to users in an attempt to scam them. So, with that being said, I think we're going to go ahead and kind of end that one there. But cryptocurrency and scams, oh my God, who knew unregulated and non-regulated entities would have such a problem with hackers? It's a big deal. It really is. So there you go. There's that story. Good luck with that white hat hacker. We've seen multiple hackers do this, and then they get a little bit too much heat. They have too many people, the authorities looking down there, looking at their case, and then suddenly they turn around and go, never mind, here's all your money back. I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to get arrested by the FBI, blah, blah, blah. So hopefully something like that happens here as well. Okay. Story number 4, story number 5, and I like this one. Before Tesla had self-driving cars, we had the conversation many times on the show here. We had guests that were, very adamant that this would not happen because of this exact legal predicament. Well, looks like we have a real-world situation where we finally have the answer. And they're saying a Tesla owner is facing the first felony charges filed against someone using a partially automated driving system in the United States, according to the Associated Press. The question is, if you are not physically driving the car, but the computer is, and it kills someone, who is in trouble? Are you in trouble for not taking over and preventing the person from dying? Is Tesla in trouble for making and programming the automated system that ultimately killed the person? Is it the car manufacturer that put the sensors into the car that might have malfunctioned, and then therefore it's the car manufacturer's fault? Who is at fault for killing someone in an automated car? And we have our first example that it's... Grant, you're saying Tesla? Well, not so much. The owner of the Tesla seems to be the one in trouble. So we have a bit of that conundrum kind of solved. And admittedly, this is not a completely automated car. This is one of the, especially back in 2019, it was the beginning. It was the beginning of car automation, just completely hands-off Tesla automation, that whole thing. They said that there was a red light and crashed into a Honda Civic at a California intersection in 2019. It ended up killing the Civic's 2 passengers, while Riyadh and his companion sustained non-life-threatening injuries. California prosecutors filed 2 counts of vehicular manslaughter against Riyadh in October last year. So they had it in self-driving mode. It slammed into the back of a car at a red light, killed the 2 people in front of them, or at least the 2 passengers in that car, and now they're being charged with manslaughter. The court documents reportedly didn't mention anything about Autopilot. However, the Traffic Administration, which has been investigating the incident over the past couple of years, recently confirmed that it was switched on at the time of the crash. And they formally opened a probe into a number of these crashes that killed 17 people, 11 different crashes. it's happening, and it's time to set a precedent. That seems to be what this is. It's also investigating other types of crashes with Tesla vehicles, including one complaint blaming the beta version of the company's full self-driving technology for collision in California. So, as the AP notes, Riyadh is the first to face charges involving a widely used driver-assisted technology. Why I think this is the appropriate move. Even with Elon Musk blowing smoke up everyone's backside, this is still a beta version. The fully self-driving autonomous version of the car is not done yet. And they mention at all times, you need to be ready to take the wheel to avoid crash or bodily harm. There were instances where people get lackadaisical. The Tesla vehicle has slammed into the back of semi-trucks going 70 miles an hour while the darn thing is parked. There are instances of it driving off the side of the road or crashing into a tree. There are instances where people have actually fooled the hand detection system, the pressure sensors, so that they could sit in the back seat while the thing drove itself. And then, of course, they die in a blazing car fire. This system is not ready for completely hands-free driving. Is it ready for some situations? Absolutely. And that's super important for Tesla. Now, clearly, Tesla is kind of treating people as crash test dummies. You are collecting data for the company to then hopefully sell you a better product. But by and large, you have to understand that, hey, even when you drive a non-automated car, you are taking your life in your hands by driving a 4,000-pound vehicle. We just kind of get very complacent, I think, when it comes to cars, and even more so when these things are getting smarter and smarter. So the fact that he was not able to prevent this crash himself, even though the self-driving thing was there, he should have been alert enough to prevent that injury. So it's probably not murder. Tesla is definitely not off the hook for these, but they're getting grouped into multiple crashes, multiple incidents, multiple fatalities, and Tesla is going to have their day of reckoning. All car manufacturers will have their day of reckoning because, hey, Tesla's not the only one doing this. They're just the highest profile one. This gentleman got the appropriate sentencing. That's really all there is to it. They said that every vehicle requires the human driver to be in control at all times, even if it is partially automated system. On its Autopilot page, Tesla says Autopilot is intended for use with a fully attentive driver who has their hands on the wheel and is prepared to take over at any moment. That's really the case of it. I can understand how people get very lazy and just want to let the car take over, but the technology is not there yet. And it's something that we've been warned about, that as these autopilot systems become more and more, until cars are 100% level 5 fully autonomous self-driving cars, humans are needed at certain points, and people are going to be less attentive at those points. If anything, it just kind of proves that the best way to make cars safer is to take humans out of the equation, because right now humans are in the equation, and when these things monumentally fail and kill people, it's when humans are supposed to intervene, but they don't. So 2 counts of manslaughter, and once again, I guess the age-old question of who gets in trouble? Is it Tesla? Is it the driver? Is it the car manufacturer? In this case, it's the driver. So there will be a day when self-driving cars kill someone and there is no steering wheel at all, even in the car. That's when Tesla will be at fault. When there is no more steering wheel in the car. But until then, they kind of get a little bit of a free pass. Let's see. We have one more article. I want to see if there's any kind of legislation here that we really need to pay attention to. Lawmakers are looking to ban location-based advertising. like generally okay, like it can know like what state you're in or what city you're in, I guess, but it can't know like your exact precise location, and it can't know, you're in the grocery store, you went to this grocery store, you bought that product, you did that. Essentially, the completely collects every little detail about an individual user and then sell them products based on exactly what they're doing. That level of creepiness might be banned here in the coming months. And hey, that's a win for consumers. You definitely have to give it to them. So credit where credit is due. This is coming from the Banning Surveillance Advertising Act, introduced by California and Illinois and New Jersey as well into the into the National Senate. Let's see. So they said that the legislation prohibits advertising facilitators, i.e. Facebook, Google, DoubleClick, data brokers, whatever, from targeting ads with the exception of broad location targets, targeting to a recognized place, i.e. a municipality, so it can still know your city or state. And they said that the bill also prohibits advertisers from targeting ads based on protected class information and any information they purchase. Violators can be enforced by Federal Trade Commission, State Attorney General, or private lawsuit. The legislation would also prohibit target advertising based on protected class attributes such as race, gender, and religion. By the way, every time that you can prove that Facebook, Google, DoubleClick, whatever, violates and they collect your age, your race, your gender, guess what? You can sue them for $5,000 a pop. And being able to prove it should be fairly routine. So, hey, it's you don't have to wait for the FTC to even do it either. You can just go out and sue them yourself. Take them to court. This is definitely going to turn some heads. Now, they say that the surveillance advertising business model is premised on the unseemly collection and hoarding of personal data to enable ad targeting. This practice allows online platforms to chase user engagement at great cost to our society, and it fuels disinformation, discrimination, voter suppression, privacy abuses, and so many other harms. The surveillance advertising business model is broken. For example, this was used, you could think like Cambridge Analytica. They were specifically targeting certain groups, 65 plus white males with certain types of advertising that would speak to them, and they were pushing a certain narrative that that was not true. Other groups, let's say for instance, you could target 18 to 35-year-old young black women, for instance, and you could target them with a highly specific, advertisement that would get them to do something, buy something, change their behavior in some notable way. And because it was so accurate, because it was so perfectly tailored to them, they would be more receptive and they would, kind of act on this. It really is a problem, and it is a problem for a society at large. Now, will this change anything? I actually, if this were actually to pass, I don't think it would, currently, I don't think it will pass. The FTC has a lot of legislation. Will they actually be able to get this through? Who knows? Yeah. It should pass. This type of thing should be banned, but will it? Google and Facebook and every other company that collects personal data will fight this under the sun. I hope for a day when this becomes law, but I really don't have any hopes that this will. This seems more like political grandstanding for hopefully for the FTC to do more antitrust litigation against these companies. But with that being said, protect your data, be careful what they collect of you, and of course, don't trust advertising in its many forms. Now, with that being said, thank you for tuning into Computer America, and I think we're about done. That's about all the stories that we have here, and and trying to ban GTA. Yeah, well, hopefully Lithuania does not ban Grand Theft Auto. But, ladies and gentlemen, that's about all we have for today. If you find out more, computeramerica.com. You can, of course, see the show notes. You can see articles, interviews. Coming up in, this next week, we have, a fairly easy week this week. I'm all for that. But in the coming week, we have a lot of interviews. Be sure to, pay attention to our website. We'll have podcasts and more. Everyone, thank you for tuning in. Let's see. Actually, I have something for this. Everyone, thank you for tuning in. And, for everyone out there watching the live stream, we'll continue on playing video games and just hanging out. But for the podcast, that's about it. Thank you for listening. Catch you next time. Bye, everyone.